The text arrived at 8:47 p.m. Ryan Miller was sitting at his kitchen counter. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the only sound in the apartment. The glow from his laptop screen painted his tired face in cold light. He was halfway through a work email when his phone buzzed. It was a message from Emily, his wife. He smiled faintly, expecting something ordinary, a reminder, a grocery list, a simple goodnight. Instead, the words on the screen made his chest tighten. "I'm taking a girls' trip to Miami this weekend. Probably will have a one-night stand." Ryan froze. His fingers hovered above the keyboard, suddenly useless. For a few long seconds, the world felt painfully still. Then the rush came, confusion first, disbelief second, and finally, a wave of dread that made his throat dry. He read it again. Once, twice, a third time. Each time, it felt more unreal. Emily had always been playful, sometimes teasing with dramatic jokes. But this didn't sound like her. There were no emojis, no exclamation points, just words that cut like glass. He dialed her number instantly, straight to voicemail. He texted back, "What does that mean, Em?" No reply. Ryan stood up, pacing the room. His heart pounded so hard he could hear in his ears. Maybe she was angry. Maybe this was her way of getting his attention. God knew he hadn't been the most attentive husband lately. Late nights, missed dinners, empty apologies. Still this? He sank into the couch, staring at the framed photos on the wall. Their wedding day, her white dress glowing under the summer sun. Their honeymoon in Italy, her hair tangled by the sea breeze, his arm wrapped around her. She used to look at him like he was her whole world. When had that changed? Ryan tried to remember the last time they'd really talked. Not about bills, not about work, not about who forgot to do the laundry, but really talked. He couldn't. Somewhere between the promotions, deadlines, and growing silences, they had drifted apart. Maybe she was lonely. Maybe she wanted him to hurt the way she had been hurting. Still a one-night stand? He couldn't imagine it. Couldn't picture her in another man's arms, laughing, kissing, pretending she didn't have a husband waiting at home. The thought stabbed at something deep inside him, not just jealousy, but grief. The slow, bitter kind that makes you question your own worth. Ryan's phone buzzed again. His breath caught. Maybe she'd explain. Maybe this was just a twisted joke. But the next message only deepened the wound. "Please don't call me. I just need some space. Don't make this harder." His hands trembled. A part of him wanted to shout, to demand answers. Another part just wanted to cry. Somewhere in the distance, a storm rolled across the city. And for the first time in years, Ryan felt the weight of being truly alone. Ryan barely slept that night. He sat in the dim glow of the living room, his phone in his hand, watching the clock crawl toward morning. Every few minutes, he checked for a new message, a missed call, anything. But Emily stayed silent. At 3:17 a.m., he gave up on sleep. The air in the apartment felt heavy, like guilt. He made coffee he didn't drink and scrolled through old photos of them together, their smiles frozen in better times. His chest ached with the cruel irony of it all. Two people who once promised each other forever, now strangers connected only by pain and a phone signal. By morning, he convinced himself there had to be an explanation. She was emotional, maybe overwhelmed. They'd argue, they'd talk it through, they always had. But as hours passed and his calls went unanswered, hope started to crack. At noon, his friend David called. "Man, you sound like hell," David said. "You okay?" Ryan hesitated. He wasn't ready to say it out loud, because once he did, it would become real. But the words came anyway. "She texted me last night, said she's going to Miami, said she might have a one-night stand." There was silence on the line. Then David sighed. "That's rough, man. Maybe she's trying to get your attention. By threatening to cheat on me? People do crazy things when they're hurt. You two haven't exactly been connected lately." Ryan rubbed his temples. "I know, but it doesn't feel like her." David's voice softened. "You've both been running on fumes. Maybe this is her breaking point." Ryan leaned back, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Breaking point. The phrase lingered. He knew it was true. The last few months had been a blur. Long hours at work, quick meals, tired good nights. He had told himself he was doing it for them, for their future. But maybe he'd forgotten to protect their present. By evening, Emily's silence became unbearable. Ryan checked her social media. Something he never used to do. Her latest post was a photo of a packed suitcase with the caption, "Sometimes you just have to breathe again." No mention of him. No heart emoji. Just distance. The next morning, she was gone. Her flight confirmation was still open on the shared computer. Miami International. Friday, 9:45 a.m. Ryan stared at it for a long time. Then something inside him snapped, not in anger, but desperation. He needed to see her, to understand, to stop whatever this was before it went too far. He booked the next flight out of Chicago. As the plane cut through the clouds, Ryan sat by the window, his mind a whirlwind of questions and regrets. He thought of the first time he met Emily, how she laughed too loudly, how she believed love should feel like music. Somewhere along the way, he had turned the music off. He landed in Miami under a burning sunset. The air was thick with salt and noise, the city alive with color and temptation. Everything here seemed to pulse with energy. Couples holding hands, music spilling from bars, laughter echoing in the streets. It felt like the perfect place to forget who you were. Ryan checked into a small hotel near the beach. He scrolled through Emily's Instagram again. A new story had appeared. A rooftop bar, palm trees swaying in the background, and her friends clinking glasses. Emily was smiling in the corner of the frame. And beside her, a man he didn't recognize, tall, charming, his hand resting too close to hers. Ryan's stomach turned. His first instinct was rage, but beneath it was something worse. Fear. What if she really meant it? What if this was the night she crossed the line they both promised never break? He stared at the screen, his heart pounding louder than the music in the background. Then he stood up, grabbed his keys, and walked out into the Miami night. The city lights blurred around him as he drove toward the bar, his hands tight on the wheel. The streets were alive with laughter and neon, but to him, it all felt like a dream he couldn't wake from. In his chest, two emotions fought for control, love and betrayal. And somewhere between them, a small, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, he could still save what was left of them. The night air in Miami felt different, warmer, heavier, alive. The kind of air that clings to your skin and carries a scent of salt, perfume, and possibility. As Ryan stepped out of the cab, the city's pulse hit him all at once. Laughter spilling from open bars, the low hum of traffic, music pulsing like a heartbeat from every corner. He had never been here before, but Emily always talked about it. "Miami feels like freedom," she once said, tracing her fingers along a travel magazine. "Like you can leave everything behind, even yourself." Now, those words haunted him. He walked along the crowded street toward the rooftop bar from her Instagram story, his heart pounding in rhythm with the city. He could hear the bass thumping from blocks away, the sound weaving through the air like temptation. He wasn't sure what he'd do when he found her, yell, beg, or simply break down. All he knew was that he had to see her face, had to know the truth for himself. Inside, the bar was drenched in neon light and noise. Laughter, music, clinking glasses, everything too bright, too alive. He scanned the crowd, searching for her. Every woman with brown hair made his chest tighten until he realized it wasn't her. Then he saw her, at the far end of the terrace, standing with her friends, a drink in hand, her hair falling in loose curls over her shoulder. For a moment, he just watched. She looked radiant, free in a way he hadn't seen in years. Her laughter floated above the music, and it hit him hard. This was the woman he fell in love with. The same warmth, the same spark. Only now, it wasn't his to share. Then he saw the man beside her, the same one from the Instagram story, tall, confident, wearing a smile that came too easily. He leaned closer to Emily, whispering something that made her laugh. Ryan's fists clenched. His vision blurred for a moment, rage and heartbreak colliding inside him. He almost turned around. Maybe he didn't want to see more. Maybe knowing the truth would destroy what little was left. But something pulled him forward, a quiet, desperate need for answers. Ryan stepped closer through the crowd. His throat felt dry, his hands cold despite the heat. When he was just a few feet away, Emily turned, her eyes catching his. For a second, she didn't move. Her smile faded. The color drained from her face. Shock, guilt, confusion, all flickered across her expression in the space of heartbeat. "Ryan," she whispered, barely audible over the music. He didn't answer. He just looked at her, at the woman he loved and no longer recognized. The man beside her stepped back, sensing the tension. "Why are you here?" Emily's voice trembled. "I could ask you the same thing," Ryan said softly. The music kept playing. People kept laughing, but for them, the world had gone silent. For a moment, neither of them moved. The music thundered around them, the crowd alive with energy, yet in that small corner of the rooftop bar, time stood still. Emily's glass trembled slightly in her hand. Ryan could see her struggling to find words, her eyes darting between him and the man beside her. The man stepped forward, uncertain. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice cautious. Ryan's jaw tightened. "I think this is between us," he said, his tone low, steady. Emily nodded quickly. "It's fine, Jake. Please, just give us a minute." The man hesitated, then quietly walked away, disappearing into crowd. Ryan exhaled sharply, turning back to her. "So this is it, huh? The girls' trip?" His voice cracked slightly, emotion slipping through the anger. "You text me that you're going to have a one-night stand, and then I find you here with him?" Emily's lips parted, but no words came. She looked down, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You weren't supposed to come," she finally whispered. "That's what you said in your message," Ryan replied bitterly. "And you really thought I wouldn't?" She looked up at him then, her eyes wet, shining in the neon light. "I didn't know what I thought. I just needed to breathe. Ryan, I needed to feel like me again." Ryan laughed under his breath, not out of amusement, but disbelief. "By running away? By pretending you don't have a husband waiting at home?" Her expression hardened. "A husband who doesn't see me anymore," she snapped. "You come home late, you eat, you sleep, and when you talk to me, it's about bills or deadlines. Do you even remember the last time you asked me how I was feeling?" Her voice broke at the end. Ryan's anger faltered. The words cut deeper than he expected because he knew she was right. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "I wasn't going to do anything," she said quietly, her gaze drifting toward the ocean. "That text, it wasn't real. I was angry. I wanted to hurt you the way I've been hurting for months. I wanted you to notice." Ryan stared at her, the tension in his body slowly unraveling into something softer, sadder. "You could have just told me," he said, his voice low. "I tried," she whispered, "dozens of times. But you were always too busy, too tired, too distracted." He swallowed hard. The music faded into a dull hum as guilt settled heavy in his chest. He thought of all the nights she'd waited for him to come home, all the dinners that grew cold, the times she reached for him and he turned away, not out of cruelty, but exhaustion. He had mistaken routine for love, silence for peace. "I thought I was doing the right thing," Ryan said quietly. "Working hard, building something for us." Emily looked at him with a mix of pain and tenderness. "You were building a life, Ryan, just not one we were living together." Her words broke something inside him. He took a step closer. Did you sleep with him?" Her eyes widened. "No, I couldn't. Even when I tried to imagine it, I couldn't. Because even after everything, I still love you." Ryan's throat tightened. Relief and regret tangled together, leaving him breathless. "I love you too," he said. "I never stopped. I forgot how to show it." Emily blinked back tears. "That's the thing about love, Ryan. It doesn't just die. It starves." For a long time, neither spoke. The wind tugged at her hair, the sound of waves crashing faintly below. Around them, people laughed and danced, unaware of the quiet heartbreak unfolding just a few feet away. Finally, Ryan reached out, gently taking her hand. She didn't pull away. "Let's not end it like this," he said softly. "Please, come back with me." We can fix this, if you still want to. Emily's eyes glistened with tears. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. I don't know if we can fix everything, she whispered, but maybe we can start again. He smiled faintly. That's enough for me. As they stood there under the Miami sky, broke and humbled, but still tethered by love, Ryan realized something simple yet profound. This wasn't the end. It was the painful, necessary beginning of something new. They left the rooftop bar without another word. The laughter and music faded behind them, replaced by the softened city at midnight. Emily walked a few steps ahead, her heels clicking against the pavement, the ocean breeze tugging at her hair. Ryan followed in silence, his thoughts heavy, his heart aching with every beat. When they reached the beach, the world seemed to exhale. The moon hung low over the water, silver light rippling across the waves. Only a few people lingered along the shore, couples walking hand in hand, the occasional jogger, the sound of life continuing quietly around them. Emily took off her shoes and stepped into the sand. I used to love the ocean, she said softly. It makes everything feel smaller, even pain. Ryan stood beside her, the sand cool beneath his feet. I never knew that, he admitted. You never told me. She smiled faintly, not out of happiness, but sadness. I stopped telling you things a long time ago. You stopped listening before that. The honesty in her voice hit him harder than any argument could. He looked out at the dark horizon, trying to steady his breathing. You're right, he said finally. I stopped listening. I thought love meant showing up, paying bills, keeping things stable. I forgot it also meant seeing you, really seeing you. Emily's voice trembled. Do you know how many nights I waited for you? Just to talk? To laugh? To feel like we still mattered? He didn't answer. The truth was too painful to deny. He had been there, physically, but his heart had been buried in spreadsheets and deadlines. He thought he was being responsible. He didn't realize he was disappearing. I thought sending that message would make you angry, she whispered. And it did, but I didn't expect you to come after me. Ryan turned to her. How could I not? You're my wife, Emily. I couldn't just sit there wondering if I'd already lost you. Her eyes shimmered in the moonlight. You almost did. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the waves. Then Ryan reached for her hand. Slowly, uncertainly. She didn't resist. Her fingers felt cold, delicate, but familiar. I can't promise I won't mess up again, he said, but I can promise I'll try harder. To listen, to be there, to love you like I used to. Emily's voice broke. I don't want the old us back, she said softly. I want something new, something real. Ryan nodded, tears stinging his eyes. Then let's build it. From scratch, if we have to. They stood there as the first hint of dawn touched the horizon, the dark skies slowly giving way to light. The sun began to rise, soft, golden, forgiving. Emily leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. It's strange, she murmured. It feels like the end, but also like a beginning. Ryan looked at the sunrise and smiled faintly. Maybe it's both. And as the waves rolled in around their feet, the pain between them began to wash away. Not forgotten, but transformed. The morning after felt quieter, softer. The storm that had raged between them had finally passed, leaving behind a fragile calm. Ryan and Emily sat side by side on the balcony of a small seaside cafe, sipping coffee in silence. The world around them buzzed with life. Waves crashing, gulls calling, sunlight glittering on the water. Yet neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. For the first time in months, maybe years, silence between them didn't feel heavy. It felt like space, like air returning to a suffocated room. Emily stared out at the horizon. I didn't think you'd come, she said softly. Ryan turned to her, a faint smile touching his lips. I didn't think I would either. But when I read that message, I realized something. I couldn't lose you without fighting for you first. She looked down at her cup, her eyes reflecting a mix of sadness and hope. I don't know what happens next, Ryan. We can't just pretend none of this happened. I know, he said gently. We don't have to pretend. We just start small, talk again, try again. She nodded slowly. Therapy? He smiled. If that's what it takes. A soft laugh escaped her, the first real one he'd heard in weeks. "You'd actually go to therapy?" "I'd go anywhere you are," he said, and this time she didn't look away. For a while, they just sat there, watching the waves roll in and out. The chaos of the night before felt distant now, like a bad dream fading with the dawn. There was still hurt between them, scars that wouldn't heal overnight. But beneath it, something new was growing. Not blind love, not habit, but understanding. Before leaving, they walked along the shoreline one last time. Emily stopped to take a photo of the sunrise, the same one they had watched hours earlier. She looked at the image on her phone, then at Ryan, and smiled faintly. "I'll keep this one," she said. He nodded. "So will I." At the airport, their hands brushed as they waited in line. Ryan hesitated, then took hers in his. She didn't pull away. "Do you think we'll be okay?" she asked quietly. "I think," he said, squeezing her hand, "that we finally have a chance to be." When they boarded the plane back to Chicago, Emily leaned her head against his shoulder. The city of lights and mistakes faded beneath them, replaced by clouds and sunlight. A blank canvas. Ryan glanced out the window, the memory of the night before flickering through his mind, the anger, the heartbreak, the tears, but also the honesty, the moment she chose truth instead of escape, the moment he chose to listen instead of defend. He reached for his phone, scrolled to the photos, and deleted the ones from the night before, the rooftop, the bar, the man whose name he would never need to know. But he kept one, the sunrise over Miami Beach. It wasn't a picture of pain anymore. It was a reminder that even after the darkest night, light still returns. As the plane climbed higher into the morning sky, Ryan closed his eyes and whispered to himself, "It wasn't the night that broke us. It was the silence before it. And maybe, just maybe, Miami was where we finally learned to speak again."